Hi everyone. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, let's see. Let's start with Sunday's video. So I think I told most or all of you there were some issues and that YouTube had apparently. So if you lived outside the United States, you had no problem watching the video and commenting, which I totally always appreciate. But if you lived in the United States, you couldn't see it or comment. And so those people, if I had your information, I had to send out in any way that I had, whatever information I had of you. And I think I got everybody. If you're watching this and you did not see Sunday's video because you couldn't and you want to, you'll have to let me know, and you'll have to let me know how you want me to send that to you. I'm telling everybody right now, I am done doing George Michael. No more. Apparently that's the problem. This is the second one now, and both of them were George Michael songs. So, yeah. So there's that. And so for today's video, I've got Kiki behind me where you can see him because a lot of you asked for that. And RC is, well, he was behind me. Now he's over there. So he's going to be moving around. And there he is. And so we'll see if he, see how often he appears in the video. Another thing I wanted to mention was this morning when I got up, I was saying good morning to everybody, and I discovered that our newest young one, Latte, is a boy, because he was sitting there, and which is what males do, and that's what he was doing, and so now we know that Latte is a male. So if you're keeping track, let's see. Carmel's a girl. Should have written this down. Carmel's a girl. Zorro's a boy. Halo's a girl. Zero is a girl. Marble is a boy, and now Latte is a boy. So that's how that breaks down. So everything should be good for until about a year from now, maybe a little less than that, and then I may have an issue on my hands, but we'll see, I guess. If I had to, if I knew somebody who wanted a finch or two, I suppose I could part with, obviously it would have to be, two of the same gender, unless they had other finches, then you can only take, so having one would be not a problem. But we'll see if that happens. So today, so last week I was debating on what I was gonna do for the Wednesday's video, and then last week I decided on the tour of the yard, because I had been wanting to do that for quite some time, and all of you liked it, which I totally appreciate. And so like I said, I plan on doing that again, August, September or so. So then we can, or a slideshow. I haven't decided. We'll see what happens. So then we can see, because I've always wanted to see. You kind of watch them grow and you forget how they started, and see how they grow or whatever. By end of summer, especially if the pumpkins and sunflowers are successful or not. So, okay, so there's that. So the other story that I was debating on doing, I guess I will do today, because that's since if I was debating, then I'm gonna have to do the other one. So what I wanted to, I've been asked by at least one of you to tell the story of my first bird. So I will do that. So I would say February of. It started in February. It was like 2 months before my birthday. I want to say 1990 is what I want to think. And my brother and I were down in my grandma's basement, and my uncle had a pool table down there. So any chance we got, us grandkids would be down there working on our pool skills. And so my brother and I were down there, and I noticed an old bird cage. And my grandma, she didn't throw anything away, so she had stuff down there from this, from when the time my mom and her siblings were growing up. And so there was this bird cage from like the 60s, and I don't know why I'd never noticed it before, but I hadn't. And so I looked at this cage, and it was the kind where came in a big, there was like a base, big heavy metal base, and then like a stand with a great big hoop, and then the cage hung in the middle of the hoop. And you may have seen that style. And so I remember looking in there, and I remember seeing there was like one fluff feather still on the bottom of the cage. And I remember thinking there needs to be a bird in that cage. And so when it came time to leave, I told my grandma, I said, I think you should get a bird because there needs to be a bird in that cage. And she goes, oh no, I'm not getting a bird. And but it kept bothering me. So then I talked to Mom, and somehow I got the okay to get a bird. And so by that time I knew zero about birds other than the fact that they flew. That's all I knew. Basically that's all I knew. I knew what a parakeet was. I knew what a canary was. But that's about it. So, okay, research. So I remember going to the school library, and they had a whole bunch of books on the different kinds of birds. And I remember looking at the word cockatiel. I had never seen that word before. And and I remember thinking, well, that's a misprint that they meant to say cockatoo. I mean, this is how much I did not know about anything. So I checked out all those books out and read them all, and I finally decided that my first bird should be a male parakeet. That's what I decided, because they all kept talking about this egg binding thing, and I didn't want anything to do with that. So it's like, okay. So then I learned how to tell, a male parakeet from a female. And then I waited, and then my 16th birthday came, and then I saved up money and everything, and I picked out the store. We had a store in town we used to have a Ben Franklin store, if you remember that. Those stores had just about everything in there, and they had a pet section, and there were parakeets and finches and your smaller, more common birds in the back of the store with along with all the fish tanks. And so I said, okay, that's where I'm getting my bird, and we're getting it the day after my 16th birthday. And so the next day, the day after my birthday, my father he takes me there. And I walk in and march to the back of the store where they are, and I'm looking at this big cage with there must have been 10 parakeets in this cage, and they were all younger. And so, you probably know young parakeets, you can tell them because they don't have that cap on their foreheads. The stripes come all the way down to above the cere. And at that age, the cere color isn't set yet, so they are all kind of that pink, brown, tan color, and you can't tell. And that's what they all were. And I said, I was standing there, and I'm like, I said, but I want a male one. And the person at the store, who knew about as much as I did, or less than, she goes, well, I don't know either. And then, so we decided, well, I thought I'd just try my luck. And then she goes, I'll go find a box. And she comes back with this box that's like this big. And my father took one look at that, and he goes, let's go. We got back in the truck, and I'm so devastated, because it's like, you know, I was looking forward to this for 2 months and done all this research work, and I was so excited. So he starts driving. We didn't go home. He starts driving, and I'm like, and I start thinking, where are we going? He takes me to the next town where I didn't know this, but they had an actual pet store. And he brings me into the store, and of course you walk in, all you hear is chirping, chirp, 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 and it's like I had never been in a pet store before. It's like everything's dedicated to all things pets. I was in total heaven. So we go to the bird section, and they had another big mega cage. With parakeets, with all your usual young ones. And then there was this tiny little cage. I'm not kidding. This thing was like maybe a foot high, and maybe, you know, I can't think of a species of bird small enough that you would fit, that would be appropriate for this size of cage. Not even the smallest finch should be inside this cage. But there was the tiny little cage I've ever seen, ever. And it's sitting there separate from the big one. And inside this cage is an obviously male parakeet. He's got 1 foot on the perch and 1 foot hanging onto the bars. And apparently that's where he sat. And I said, what's with, you know, oh, he doesn't perch right, so that's how he sits. He's 9 months old. And he's for sale. I'm like, so then I was debating, okay, do I want an obviously male parakeet, but he's kind of disabled, or do I try my luck at a younger, you know, perfectly able parakeet? So, well, I came home with the obviously male, you know, disabled parakeet. So, brought him home. They had an actual appropriate box, you know. And I remember him staring at me. I remember his eye staring me through the hole, through one of the holes in the box, on the way home. But got home. I had that cage all set up, and put him in there. And he sat there for, this was on a Saturday. I think Monday morning, I was like getting ready, brushing my hair and whatever, and also I heard a chirp. That's the first time he said anything. He didn't say anything all weekend. He chirped on Monday, and, you know, so we started to get to know each other and everything, because I didn't know anything. I did things that I now know you don't do. And unfortunately, he paid the price. The first time I was playing, I had a pair of gerbils at the time, and I had them out with me out in the living room, playing with them. I had a cardboard box, and I had them on the bottom of the box so they could run around and whatever. And then I had a regular dowel perch balanced on top, and parakeet. Oh, what was his name? I totally forgot. My friend, actually, we were trying to pick out a name. My friend named him, so his name was Mr. Feathers. So that was his name. So Mr. Feathers was sitting on the dowel perch, like I said, balanced on. Are you okay? He's okay. Bounced on top of the box, and I remember I went to adjust. I don't know if I was sitting and I went to lay down or whatever, and I accidentally bumped the box. The perch fell down into the box along with Mr. Feathers, and then I heard screaming, and I looked down, and both gerbils had ran over and were on him, and I picked him up, and I saw blood, and it took a little time before I finally saw that they had chewed through most of his toe. The same foot that was disabled. So that healed. The toe fell off. So now he was missing that, and then he had just totally healed from that. Hold on. and then we were, by that point I had gotten my first cockatiel, Freeway, and so we had been bringing the birds onto the table with us at dinner time, so they could eat food with us. And I had already brought the birds over, and then we were getting dinner on, and we were having soup that night. Mom had just poured my soup into my bowl, and I was running around with her getting the last final things, when all of a sudden we heard screaming. And I look over, and here's Mr. Feathers in my soup that was just been on the stove. So I scooped him up and ran him under the faucet and ran cold water on him for a while. But that caused nerve damage. And by the time everything was all healed, his leg had kind of froze. Basically, he lost all muscle tone, so it's just basically skin stretched over bone, and had kind of froze into a position like this. So he actually kind of looked like a cane, and that's how he used it. So he would walk around, like this. And once he got used to that, I mean, nothing slowed him down. I did eventually get him a hamster cage. At the time they were making them metal. They now make them plastic, but so I got him a metal hamster cage that had 3 levels with ladders, and then I had toys on and mirrors, because he loved mirrors, on all 3 levels. And then he quickly figured out how to climb ladders and how to slide down them. And then at the bottom door, I got this plastic, it looked like a welcome mat, and I had hooked that on the inside. And so when he was ready, like in the morning, when he was ready to come out, he would climb up onto that welcome mat. He'd sit there and wait for me. And then all I had to do was offer him my hand, and he would jump onto my hand, and that's how I transported him everywhere, unless he decided to walk. And then I had a little play gym. His cage was way over on the end of the couch there, and then on the floor was his play gym. So then I had spray milk down there, so he could walk over there anytime he wanted. Freeway would also walk over there, and they'd eat spray milk, or then they'd play on the play gym or whatever. And then if he wanted to come back, then I just had the one cage over here, Freeway's cage, and I'm going to move this a little bit, and that kind of that upside down V-shaped thing, not the black one, but the other one. So I've had that since since then, and that's what I had on top of Freeway's cage. And so in the morning they'd both come out of bed, and they'd spend the day on top of Freeway's cage, just playing on that. And then anytime he wanted Mr. Feathers, we would just kind of glide down. I had his wings clipped, and he would just glide down on the floor and over to the end, and then he'd sit there and eat, or sit in the play gym or whatever he wanted. He loved mirrors. He loved mirrors. I had mirrors everywhere. And he treated each one differently. Some he fought with, some he ate with, whatever. And so I had a mirror over there he'd play with, and then if he wanted to come back, he just walked back up the living room, and so he kind of hung on, kind of looked up at the cage, and then someone would just come around, and with their hand he'd jump on the hand and lift him up. And he and I became very, I would say, very bonded, very close. I'd come home from school, and then after I graduated, then I'd come home from work or whatever, and he'd always be sitting there at the corner of the cage, and just so excited to see me, just kind of, and then I'd give him my hand, and he'd sit in my hand, and we talked for a while, and he liked to touch my fingernail with his beak, and I figured out it's because this kind of looks like a bird's beak, and it's made from the same material. They're both keratin, and so. But he also like touch my nose, just kind of just do this, and so that was kind of our special thing. So the only thing, so he loved his mirrors, he loved spray mallet, he loved me, but he had this infatuation with Freeway, and he was constantly following her around, and just, and he was just, that was just, she of course wanted nothing to do with him, but that he basically idolized her. So, so he lived, I'd say, I can't remember, 12 years or so. And I think he died, I think it was 2000. It was like the year 2000. I remember it was like, I don't know, March, April, somewhere around there. Well, before I tell that, I do want to say the reason why we had his wings clipped is because there was a time when I didn't, and one time he got out and flew off, and I never thought I'd see him again. But then the next morning, I live next to a golf course, although now between two golf courses. But at the time there was just one. And the next morning, the adult son of the owner of the golf course came outside, and there he was sitting there on the sidewalk. He went to pick him up. He flew up onto the roof. So then the guy got a ladder, got him down, brought him to the pet store. I had been there the night before, letting him know, so they knew he was mine. They called us. I went and got him, and I decided from then, after that, he would always have his wings clipped. So that's the story there. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So sometime in the first few months of the year 2000, I remember I was getting dinner together with getting dinner ready with Mom, and all of a sudden I got this almost like a thought bubble or like a headline, something like stamped across my head in my head, or maybe it was like a voice whispering, or I don't know how to describe it. And basically, it said that he would die that night. And so, after dinner, I brought Mr. Feathers to the couch with me, and I stayed up. He wasn't apparently ill or anything. He was just, he was, older, I guess. Not old. I guess at 12, I don't know. Parakeets are, they're getting there. And remember, apparently Daisy's out of water. She can wait. She can hold off a little bit. But this is what she does when she's out of water. She scratches at that vinyl mat, and it makes this blop 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 sound, and that's how she tells us there's no water in the bowl. So, but so yeah, we're watching you. Okay. So, yeah, boy, too much distraction. So I had him on the couch, and we watched TV together. He just kind of sat in my hand, and then Mom went to bed, and I just stayed up with him. At one point, I dozed off, and then I woke up, and by then it was like 2:30 in the morning. I panicked at first, but then I thought he was still alive, and I sat with him, and then at 3 in the morning, he breathed his last, and just kind of and that has never happened with any animal I've had, that I've gotten a pre-warning by somehow. And because I probably would not have been able to handle it if I had found them in the morning. So I was able to be there for him so that he wasn't alone at his final time. And so after he passed, I put this cover on his bird cage, and I never touched it again. It sat there where it normally sat, and eventually it got moved down to the basement. I never cleaned it out. I couldn't have anybody else use those toys. Eventually the play gym went down there too, and now everything is over here. And so my father had given me a gift a few years before. He had taken a picture that he had taken of them, and blew it up to an 8x10 and framed it. And after he passed, then we put that picture up to display. So I wanted to show that to you, so you can see what he looked like. And Freeway. So you can see that was his leg. And you can also see how much she cared, how much she did not care. That he was staring, and he just totally infatuated with her. And that was her cage, and as you can see, that's still in use. So, yeah. What was his? I did finally figure out what his initial disability was. My main guess, well, mostly a guess, but I think he was splay legged, which basically means the bottom bird. The bird on the bottom of the pile of all the other baby birds and the parents, and with their bones so soft that instead of their legs growing like this, they're splayed out a little, and then as their bones harden as they get older, they stay that way, and so that's why he never could, perch like normal, and that's why he started out, like this. So, but I have learned, because of him and from other, stories I've read and people I've talked to, that birds like him that are whose their body doesn't work normally, whether because something's missing or something's wrong or whatever, they actually are they're a lot more personable, and they form much closer relationships with their humans than, say, in totally able-bodied bird. So, so if you ever get a chance to provide a home for disabled bird of any kind, I totally encourage you to do so. You may have to make some changes, different combinations. You may have to even make stuff. If bird cage and other companies. They're they're trying to make stuff, but the market for these guys it's so small that it's not really it's kind of cost prohibitive to mass produce stuff. But you can find some stuff, but other stuff you just gotta figure out on your own. So that's the story of Mr. Feathers. So I made it through it. I didn't think I'd make it through that story. I still have times when I think about him, and yeah, I miss him. I miss him so much. So, so I think that's it. I've talked a little, I've talked enough. I still got thirsty dog over here. And, yep, I got shushed. I just got shushed. I don't know if you heard that. I just got shushed by ERC. And so, and I may have a little time left, so hopefully I can work on Sunday's song. It should be a fun one. So I think we need fun right now. I think we need a little fun right now. So, so see you around, and see you then, and really nice spending time with you guys virtually. So bye.